What's going on, people? It's Ricardo Francis, aka Ricardo Lifting here. Now, you see the title of this video, How to Lose Belly Fat. Now, first and foremost, I'm not saying that you can specifically lose fat on your belly. That's incorrect. You can't spot fat reduce. Yo, before we continue, I just want to say thank you to everybody. We finally hit 100 subscribers. Now, I know it might just seem like a small win, but it's a huge win to me. You know, I've been working on this YouTube channel for time. Did it like 2-3 years ago when I started, restarted it last summer, and now we've reached 100 subscribers. So that's my first big milestone for YouTube. I just want to see this channel continue to grow, and if you do too, make sure you share this video with at least one friend. Anyway, back to the video. First thing you'd have to be is in the calorie deficit to lose anything. Now, what a calorie deficit is just eating a little bit less than the amount of calories you need to sustain and stay the same way. Now, it's different person to person. You know, the average woman is meant to have, in the UK, is meant to have 2,000 calories. The average man is meant to have 2,500 calories. But what is the average woman or man? Unless you hit the description of average, it's going to vary depending on your lifestyle, depending on how active you are, if you exercise, etc. So there are calculators online that can do it for you. If you feel like you live the average life and you are the average person, then you can always start at the average, consume that, and go from there. Really, start from the average and see if you have to decrease. If you start putting on weight, start to decrease. But if you're losing weight at the average, then you're probably a little bit more active than the average person, and that way you don't need to make any reductions. Just eat that average calorific value. I always suggest to all my clients to have a higher protein diet to be able to achieve better results, especially when it comes to fat loss, simply because sometimes if you just eat the same amount of calories that you're eating and just have higher protein values, drop your carbs, most times you will get pretty good results. Why? Because carbohydrates is a source of energy, just like fats. Difference is we don't typically seek fat sources per se in our diets. Fats usually in the form of some form of meat, fish. Most times it's the skin. You also get fats in nuts, seeds, and obviously oils as well. And you'll get it in some vegetables, but not a high amount for the most part anyway. Whereas carb sources, you can pretty much have foods that are just very high in carbs and minimal in protein and fats. And because we have so many available to us, especially in refined sugars, etc., with so many products and fast products out there, it tends to be the majority of most people, especially in the UK and in any first world country, it tends to be the majority of their diets, which isn't the healthiest. It contains a lot of sugar, a lot of additives, and apart from that, it doesn't have a lot of micronutrient value. When I say micronutrients, I mean your vitamins, your minerals, zinc, magnesium, all those things. They normally come from your vegetables, your meat sources, your beans, etc. So if we just reduce our carb sources, especially the ones that add little nutrient value, increase our protein sources, most times people get the desired result they want. This is especially useful if you do some form of resistance training, because you need protein to recover. If you're sore for more than one day, if you're sore for 2 days, 3 days, etc., yeah, you could have a great workout, but it also means you might not be recovering adequately. So you want to maximize your protein intake to be able to recover faster, that means where you can train more frequently, and that way you can burn more calories in general. So as I said, what you might want to do is actually have high protein sources, lower your carbs, and your fats will probably stay around the same. To be honest, your fats might actually increase, just because if you're increasing your protein sources, especially if it's from meats or fish, and if you're having carb alternatives that are more natural, which are probably going to have a little bit more fats in them, that way you're probably going to have higher fats anyway. Not like for me, Personally, I don't specifically look for fat sources within my diet because I know I get enough, you know. So I eat enough meat, I eat a lot of fish, um, I eat things like beans, I add like linseeds to my baked oats in the morning, etc. So there's so many things that incorporate fats that I don't actually need to add or look for specific fats, as well as when you slightly fry your food, etc. You might add a little bit of fat to your diet as well. So I'm just going to stop you there, and I want to make a quick announcement. So I've been given the opportunity to work with DY Nutrition. So DY Nutrition was founded by six-time Mr. Olympia Dorian Yates, and he's given me the opportunity to be part of the team and to give you guys an opportunity to purchase high quality products. So he's got a new range called Renew, and Renew is, let me say, the top end of products, you know, top end of supplements. You know, these supplements have had everything put into them, you know, with years of experience, knowledge, etc. No expense spared when it comes to picking the quality of the ingredients, making sure it's top quality ingredients, and it's UK manufactured as well. So if you want the opportunity to get these high quality products as well as support your boy, support me, go over to dynutrition.co.uk, look at the Renew range, and put in the discount code Francis10, to be able to get discount on these top quality products and put a little bit of money in my pocket. Anyway, back to the video. The next thing you want to focus on is exercise. When I say exercise, it's just a generic term, you know. If you want to lose fat, just start to move more. You know, that could be going for a walk, whether it's a walk, it's a run, it's a cycle, whether you're training in the gym, you're lifting weights, you're doing body weight exercises, you're skipping, you're doing a YouTube workout, whatever it may be, just move more. That's the simplest way to say you're burning more calories in general. It will increase that calorie deficit. It will remind your body that you need certain muscles, and therefore it'll give you a greater chance that you lose fat rather than just losing weight, because weight is comprised of everything within your body, from muscles, bone, cartilage, water, food, like everything that's within your body, that's weight on the scales. What you actually want to focus on is fat, which is very specific. So the easiest way to measure that would be through a tape measure. But by doing some form of exercise, especially resistance training, you are stimulating muscles, and therefore your body is not going to just get rid of the muscle because it's in use. So it's going to try to find another source, another output to lose, which is probably going to be your fat source. That's the simplest version and simplest way I can break it down to. If you are going to exercise, it's ideal to have your main form of exercise as resistance training, because it kind of kills two birds with one stone. It burns calories just like any form of exercise, but you're also shaping the body, essentially. If you are working specific body parts, or you're doing certain movements that stimulate different body parts, for instance, you're a lady, you want to grow your legs and your bum at the same time. You know, you want to have nicely shaped legs, you want to have a nicely shaped bum, you want slightly tighter abs. You know, you're going to exercise and train those body parts so you can get that. As the body fat drops down, you know, the muscle will look tighter. I'm not saying don't do any form of cardio. You know, I do cardio in a different way than the normal. Cardio is typically known as for people to do steady state cardio, which is, you know, you're walking, you're jogging, you're cycling, the repetitive stuff, the stuff that you have to end up doing for a long time. And if you love and enjoy that, that's perfect. But like sometimes my form of cardio is a HIIT session at home where I'm doing full body movements, but it's not enough to fatigue my muscles too much. It's actually more taxing on my cardiovascular endurance, which is my lungs. You know, I'm breathing heavier, etc. So, you know, my heart rate spikes up quite high. That's the type of cardio I tend to do. And I'll just say, obviously, if you want to be efficient, HIIT cardio is probably the way. If you can't train at that intensity, then just do steady state cardio, you know. If you enjoy going for walks, go for walks. If you like to cycle to the shop, or you just want to ride in general, go and cycle. You know, there's no one formula, there's no one way, there's so many ways, but it's just about moving more. But I do suggest doing some form of cardio to make sure that you've increased in your lung capacity, which will allow you to train harder, which will allow you to do a little bit more. Also, it's good for general health, especially as you get older. You want to be able to breathe walking up the stairs and carrying things, etc. So I suggest everyone does some form of cardio. Even if your intention isn't cardio, but your heart rate still spikes and you still have to rely on a large supply of oxygen, train that way. You know, a lot of my training is resistance training. Some of it is high intensity in terms of getting little rest. Oxygen has to come through my nose, pump around my body quite quickly. Sometimes it's intense in terms of the weight I use, and that way I have to have adequate breathing to be able to lift heavy, etc. You want to make sure that you're tracking your progress. Now, typically, people want to track progress in terms of weight loss on a scales. Now, scales isn't the biggest indicator, especially if you're looking to lose belly fat. You know, scales doesn't measure your belly fat weight. It just measures your whole body weight. Secondly, your body weight fluctuates throughout the day, throughout the night, when you consume food, when you go toilet, when you drink water. Even there's a difference between when you wake up and when you go to bed, not even taking into consider those factors. So don't focus on the scales, focus on inches, focus on how your clothes feel. When I say inches, you might take a tape measure, you might measure certain areas, make sure you measure in the same spot. You might do a weekly check or a monthly check, depending on how quick you expect to see results. But you still have to be patient with it. Just be very, very patient. And then, yeah, as how your clothes feel, you know, are your clothes really tight fitting, like they're too small for you? Are they getting looser in certain areas? If you're doing a combination and resistance training, you're trying to build up your legs, but you want your waist to get smaller, is it getting smaller at the waistband, but tighter on the thighs? Like certain things like that. If your clothes feel better and you look better, you're probably going in the right direction. You know, that's what losing body fat is. You will lose it in the places that you hold more fat, and then on your clothes, you definitely feel that difference. Now, within all that I've said, you know, that's the simplest way to put it. There's no magic formula. With all that I said, there are things to look out for, because it's typical mistakes that people do. One thing is taking measurements too frequently. You know, they might do daily measurements, etc., because they're obsessed with the outcome, and you just have to give it time. It's a lifestyle change at the end of the day. Success doesn't come overnight. You know, Rome isn't built in a day. The reality is it's probably taken you more than one night to get your body in the shape that it is for you to want to lose belly fat. So it's going to take time to get rid of that. You know, you might be undoing 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years worth of bad habits. Don't expect that to happen overnight. It might actually take the same amount of time. It might take less, depending on how well you progress into doing a little bit more, burning a little bit more, you know, just getting a little bit more at the fat burning process. Another thing people tend to do is exercise excessively. You know, they say, okay, I'm going to drop my calories. They might keep the calories the same, and then just exercise like nobody's business, you know, doing 2 hours of cardio a day, doing an hour worth of ab workouts, etc. That's not the way to do it. At the end of the day, you want moderation. You know, it's just doing a little bit and then increase a little bit more. And increasing doesn't mean the time you're doing it for. Increasing could be reducing your time frame, your rest time frame, so that way you do more of the exercise, etc. That could be an extra rep, can be an extra 2 reps per set, you know, just little things like that. Doing more could be increasing your resistance in a way, or doing a harder variation. It's all about just consistently trying to get better at what you do and just progress through that way. You know, don't do anything excess, don't do anything crazy. You don't need to get your result. The more you do to get the results, the harder it is to sustain, number one. Two, you have to compensate with food. You know, you can't be in a 200 calorie deficit food wise, and then you're burning 1,000 calories. You know, that means technically you would probably need to eat another 800 calories to make up for that, or another 1,000 calories to make up for that, because it's too much. You're already in a calorie deficit. You know, the healthy range is between 200 to 500 calories in a deficit. You know, if you're burning 3,000 calories a day and you're only eating 2,000 calories, that's more than 1,000 calories of a deficit, and your body can't sustain that. Your body needs those calories to be able to function. You know, your organs, etc., everything that you're doing throughout your day. How do you maintain that? And it's through food. You know, you need to energize. So that's why they say a small calorie deficit, because it's healthy enough for you to be able to do what you do, but your body will start to drop the fat, because it's like, okay, I need to get rid of something because I can't sustain this. Whereas if you're in a huge calorie deficit, your body can't sustain it. So, you know, your body will start breaking down. You'll start storing more fat because your body doesn't know when it's going to get it, because it's not getting enough as it is. You might start deteriorating your muscle mass because it's weight, and at the end of the day, your body doesn't necessarily distinguish the difference between weight and fat when it comes to it, especially in extreme conditions. So yeah, just make sure it's nothing is an extreme, whether it be your calorie deficit or your exercise. Next thing is to stay consistent. You know, a lot of people get disheartened, or they say, yeah, I had a great week. I exercised for 3 hours on Monday. And it's like, well, what happened to the rest of the week? It's like, well, didn't really do anything then, but that should be enough for the week. You know, if you do 1 hour 3 times a week, it's the same thing, but it's not the same thing. The main thing is being consistent and making it as frequent as possible. You know, if you can exercise 4 times a week, even if it's only 20 minutes, it's better than doing all that time in one day. So just break it down, be as consistent as possible. So make sure it's manageable enough for you to be able to do it frequently and be able to do it consistently. You know, just stick to it and keep going. You know, it might take 6 months, it might take 2 months, it might take a year, it might take 2 years, but just be consistent. At the end of the day, I said your body didn't get the way it did for you to want to change it overnight. It happened over time. So you have to undo that work, and how long that's going to take is dependent on person to person. So just be patient, be consistent, and keep at it. And then make sure you take calculated breaks. Now, when I say calculated breaks, I'm talking about both in diet and exercise. You know, in exercise, you need a rest day. You need to have your body recover. That break could be a break in training a certain body part. Okay, I'm not going to do legs today. I'm going to work on my upper body because my legs are tired, my legs are sore, they haven't recovered. So there's no point overdoing it. Sometimes you might be able to train 7 days a week, but you probably need a day to rest. But make sure it's calculated. Don't wait for your body to burn out, because by the time you reach that burnout phase, the recovery is going to need to be longer. It's going to hinder your performance, and then you're not going to be able to do as much the next time you go. So make sure it's calculated. You know, that's why I make sure I incorporate rest days. There might be times where you can feel, okay, your body's aching. You might reduce the amount of sessions you have for a little while. You might go from 5 sessions a week to 3 sessions a week, just because your body is starting to get there. And again, you don't want to reach that point of failure and burnout. Just like food, you know, you can stay consistent, and it's about being consistent. But I said take calculated breaks so you don't take a full break, you know. Again, being calculated is, okay, I know I'm going to, on Saturday, I'm going to eat, I'm going to have takeaway. And that's not a problem, but calculate it. Say, okay, if I'm eating 4 meals a day, I might cut out 1 meal and reduce carbs of another meal. That way I can have that takeaway and it doesn't affect my calories, or it doesn't affect it too much. And that's calculated, rather than just saying, oh, I'm just going to eat whatever I want. It doesn't matter. I'm not going to count it, because that hinders your results, which is going to make your progress a lot longer. And the more you're doing that, obviously, the more it's going to affect your results. So just be very calculated about it in terms of plan ahead, plan for it. It's a lot easier to compensate for something you know is coming than for something that just pops up. So say, okay, all of a sudden today I just went out to eat and I had an extra 1,000 calories. Okay, I've got to try and burn that through the week. or I got to reduce that through the week from my food. That's a lot harder than if you said throughout the week, okay, I'm going to reduce my calories slowly, and then on that day I know I'm going to have a little bit more calories. Whether you've reduced calories for 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, it doesn't matter. You've calculated it beforehand. It's like, to say, if you had a car and the tires were fading, and you give it a time frame, say, okay, by next month I have to change my tires, versus if the tires wear flat and then burst because they're too low, and then you say, okay, I'm going to change my tires. It's a lot harder, because then how do you get your car to the garage? The damage is already done. Are you sure there's going to be tires available? You have to think of these things. It's a lot easier to plan ahead. Prevention is better than cause. So I hope that's helped. If you like this video, this kind of content, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this with at least one friend. I want to create more content for you guys, very specific to what you guys want. There's no point in me pouring out content and it's not relevant to you and your goals. So just comment down below any topics you want to see, any specific questions you might have, etc. Anyway, that's me. I'm out. Peace.